Hello there. My next guest is commonly known as Australia's first Aboriginal and openly gay newsreader, but she's also a lot more than that. Please welcome Narelda Jacobs. Hello, Narelda. How are you?
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you for coming. Please sit down.
Oh, pleasure. Thank you.
Are you excited to have your portrait done?
I am so excited. I've been looking forward to this.
What are you expecting to see on this canvas?
Surprise me. I'm up for anything.
Well, I'm going to
I won't judge your talent. I'll be happy with whatever you do.
Well, I'm glad. I'm going to do my best. And what I'll do is I'll try and, from the conversation that we're going to have today, is put it on the canvas. But welcome back.
Thank you.
It's ECU. You're back at ECU. You're back at Whopper. You tried out 3 times.
I did, yes.
And
yes,
you got in the
lucky.
third time.
Yep.
But that's a lot of determination. Where did you get that determination from, Narelda?
Well, I think I wanted to be a journalist ever since I was in year 7. And I kind of, even though, you know, life circumstances after school would kind of take you further away from that. You know, like I fell pregnant at 18, I had a baby, you know, at 19, I was, you know, got a job in the public service after, you know, getting knocked back those first 2 times. And so it wasn't for about 5 years after school that my manager at the time said to me, you know, what are you doing? You know, because she knew that I wanted to be a journo. And so it was through her encouragement that I auditioned a 3rd time and I got in. And I've always kind of thought, you know, that moment was the beginning of the rest of my life.
Yeah, it's a huge moment. I mean, but it definitely took a lot of determination. It took a lot of support from people you knew, and you've mentioned a few people that supported you along the way throughout your career, but one of them was a tutor here at ECU, Jo McManus.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit about what she actually told you?
Jo is instrumental in my whole career. So it's really through her encouragement, I guess, that I was able to take that first step in going into a mainstream newsroom in the first place, because at one point, you know, towards the end of the studies, or, you know, midway through, she took us, each of us aside, and said, you know, what's the end game? You know, what's your dream job? And I kind of said to her, you know, like a message stick program, you know, like an Indigenous magazine type program that was on air at the time, and or like Living Black. And she kind of looked at me and said, you know, yeah, that's great, but why do you want to pigeonhole yourself? And that conversation was a pivotal moment, you know.
So profound.
It was profound.
What she told you.
Yes, it was
life-changing.
It was life-changing, because there's nothing wrong with doing, you know, like a Living Black program. I mean, it's like the longest running current affairs program in Australia. They've just broken a record recently. So, you know, they're fantastic, and, you know, I have huge respect for them. But I would have kind of been here, and I think this is what Jo said to me, you know, why are you aiming for here when you've got the potential to be up here? And I kind of just looked at her and I went, what? Thinking, no, I don't, you know.
What are you talking about? That's crazy.
Yeah. So I think, you know, it was just hearing someone like Jo have that sort of faith in me, that then I started to reassess, you know, what the future could hold, and yeah, it was pivotal, and it was profound, and it was life changing.
Yeah. The course the course is extremely tough in itself, but you were a single mum at the time as well, and you were raising your daughter Jade. Can you tell me how hard that was? How did you do it?
There was no one at home, you know, to get Jade off to childcare when it opened. So my parents lived in Mandurah, and my dad would actually come up the night before and stay the night, so that he could take Jade to childcare and to, she was still in childcare at that time, because she was about 3. So my family, I have such a lot to thank my family for, because they were supporting me every step of the way, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without them.
Yeah, and speaking of your family, I mean, you're one of 5 girls. You're the youngest of 5 girls.
Yes. And
your mum's from Ireland. She came over when she was 8.
Yes.
And then your dad is a Wajak Noongar man.
Yes.
So that's a bit of a cocktail there, a family. It would have been dynamic family set up. What was it like during childhood? Tell me a bit more about that.
Well, because I was the youngest, you know, stereotypically the baby of the family, like everybody loves the baby. So I was just surrounded by love, like just love and affection, and
They want to protect you as well, don't they, when you're the youngest?
Yes, and yeah, that real sense of protection. And I think what cemented our sort of place in the world was that we had a very strong sense of belonging. You know, we grew up with a very strong sense of belonging. We're from, you know, WA, we're from Perth, you know, we're Nyungas. You know, my mum is British, you know, so we always, you know, it wasn't just that we were Aboriginal, we were also British, you know, and so I never, it's the whole package, you know. You can't just be one parent. You know, you're both parents. But we grew up with a strong sense of identity as being Aboriginal people and people from Perth, and you know, really identified strongly as living in a tight community.
Yeah, yeah, and you're pretty proud of being a part of WA and being a Perthian.
Yeah.
Why is Perth so special to you, apart from growing up here?
Because we all know each other. We're all connected somehow to each other, I think. You know, I think you know, if you've got strong, you know, family roots here, you will know someone who knows someone. You know, so. And I guess that makes us a community, a strong community. And you only need to see when disasters happen or tragedy strikes, we're there for each other. And I think that's what's so great about being from Perth.
Mm. Yeah, it's such a close-knit community, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned your dad as well. He Wajak Noongar man, and he was born in Perth. He was actually part of the stolen generation. So he's taken from his parents when he was 8.
Yes,
about 8.
He was. Yeah.
And what lessons did you learn from your dad? What did you take from him?
What I took from him was that you can experience the worst type of trauma, you know, from having been taken away from his parents at such a young age. And actually, he was taken with 2 of his younger brothers. There were 6 children in his family altogether, and so 2 of his younger brothers and my dad, Cedric, were taken away. And so at the age of 8, he had to be a parent for his younger siblings, you know. And I think from that, you know, it was that sense of wanting to protect his younger brothers that put him in good stead to be the best parent, the best dad. Like he was the best dad, and he was, you know, very protective of us, and he made sure that he did not carry the trauma throughout his life. And for him to be able to do that, I think it just says a lot about who he was and the love that he had for us, and that he lived a fairly righteous life, you know, and he was very highly regarded, and he achieved the most amazing things, and he was a fantastic role model. He was a great dad. He had a very busy life. He would go to Canberra a lot because he was the advisor to the Minister for Aboriginal Affairs, who was Fred Chaney at the time, who was also advising the Prime Minister Malcolm Fraser at the time, who my dad, you know, respected immensely, both of those men. So he would fly a lot to Canberra when I was in my early primary school years, but for some reason he would always be able to attend our school sports carnivals. And there's, you know, school assemblies and parents attending school assemblies when you have to sing or you have to do a presentation or something. It counts for a lot. You know, it might not be, you know, something huge in the parents' eyes maybe, but the memory that the kid will have of that is forever. Yeah. And you just have to be there for all of those moments. And I think, you know, when especially when like Jade was growing up, I had no problem attending assemblies. You know, I would have no problem saying to the newsroom at work, I've got to attend Jade's assembly, she's getting a certificate today, you know. And while, you know, at the time that's kind of, you know, some people do frown upon that sort of thing, but it's just so important. You have to be there for those moments. You just have to. There's no question.
Mm. And it is difficult. You mentioned that you've had to ask your work to take off time to do that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Would they ever say no or tell you that you can't go, because your role is really important as a presenter of a commercial news station?
Well, I've never been in the position where I've had to just up and leave. because of an emergency that I can think of. But there was certainly when I was on the road reporting and Jade was still young. I mean, all these things happen when kids are young. I was on the road reporting and Jade she ran over at childcare and fell over, knocked her teeth on some blocks, and her two front teeth were just hanging by a thread basically. So she had to go in for emergency surgery, and I was out on the road. I couldn't, even though, you know, I had phoned back and said, I've got to go. I couldn't leave right then and there. So who happened to be in town at that moment? My dad and my older sister. And so they went and picked her up and then took her to a dental surgery, and then it was apparent that it was bigger than that, so then they took her to PMH. And then so I finished my story, like just raced through it, finished my story quickly, put my voice down, left, and it was when I was driving to PMH I got the phone call and said, you didn't write your intro. And so I'm like, my little girl is going in for emergency surgery. Can someone else write it?
Someone just do it.
Can someone do it?
Oh.
You know, but at that time I understood that no other person in the newsroom had any little kids. You know, no one was a parent of young children. So there was just not so much understanding. But now it's completely changed. And there is, you know, newsrooms are full of pregnant women, for example, and everyone's. Lots of people have got little children, so it's changed dramatically from when Jade was small.
Yeah, it has, and I guess women bring children into Parliament now these days, but Jade is 21 now, so
Yes.
So she is a grown woman, and she's very involved with the Indigenous community as well. So tell me a bit more about how she works with that.
Oh, she's just the pride of my life, Maddie. She's just... I just can't tell you enough how proud I am of her.
You just see it on your face even when I asked it. I just knew.
When she came and told me that she wanted to study fine arts and Indigenous studies, like a double degree, I said, that's great. You know, I was like, that's great, but what are you going to do with it? You know, and because I kind of just thought they were hobbies. You know, like what could you possibly do with fine arts and Indigenous studies that will make you a decent living? So there was a bit of concern, you know, that it was just going to be something nice to do.
It's going to be one of those arts degrees that you put aside and then you
Exactly.
look for another job.
Exactly, yeah. So when she finished, or as she was finishing, she started doing a lot of cultural art. So she started integrating both of those degrees into one sort of art form, I guess, doing cultural art. And then it just like snowballed, and she was going into schools and doing huge murals, and like she'd lay out 10-metre long canvases, and by the end of it, all of the kids in the whole school and all the teachers and some parents as well would have contributed to this artwork that had a story about where the school was, you know, or something about their community, or what they had been doing, or, you know, some really meaningful story about that school, you know. A very individual, unique story, and the artworks it was just word of mouth was getting around, and before long she was booked solidly, you know, for months and months on end, just going into schools and doing murals, like transforming walls, like whole walls, just have the confidence to just transform it.
And you speak a lot about your strong sense of identity. You've said it through interviews and things like that, but through Christianity and also through being Indigenous. But when you realised that you were gay, how did that threaten your sense of identity? Did that totally shake things up for you?
It did, because the fear of rejection is... You know, like while a sense of belonging and identity is great, I mean, you could easily be rejected from that, which a lot, you know, when you're from a fundamental religion, that fear of rejection stops people from coming out and stops them from living their true life. And I just had to be true to myself, and I owed it to the people that I respect the most, my parents, to let them know who I really was, and that sense of being true to myself was more powerful than being rejected, I guess. So when I came out to my mum, I actually couldn't face my dad, to be honest. I couldn't face my dad. So I just did it to my mum. I came out to my mum and she cried and cried and cried. And she ended up saying, you know, I won't ever accept, or, you know, I won't ever embrace, you know, what you've just told me, but I'll always love you. And that's all I could ever ask for. You know, I know we'll be diabolically opposed. Like she voted no, you know, in the marriage equality plebiscite, and I would never have been able to change her mind. But I respect her, and she won't ever change my mind. So our votes kind of cancelled each other out, you know. So, but in the end, yes won, and so it's irrelevant now.
Yeah, and yes won, and that's what's happened. That's what the country voted.
Yes.
So do you think that's changed your mum's mind at all?
She's come a long way. She has come a long way. You know, my partners have always been welcome at the table at my mum and dad's house. She, you know, an ex that I was with for 15 years is like a member of the family still, even though we haven't been together for, you know, 7 or 8 years or so. Marion is very much a part of the family, and some people think she's like a sixth sister. So yeah, my mum has definitely come a long way. We still don't talk about my sexuality, and I can't really talk to her about relationship issues because it's just a bit awkward. But then again, some people can't talk to their parents about relationship stuff. So, you know, I just kind of
having the talk.
Yeah.
It's sometimes already awkward anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Or even, you know, some people don't publicly show affection in front of their families. You know, so it's kind of just a bit like that, I guess. So we've just kind of got a bit of an understanding that we just don't talk about it.
Now, you've likened your mum to a prominent person in the community. I've got a photo for you to show you. Yes. I think they're rolling it now.
The reason it's so funny is because my mum's name is Margaret. Yeah. And she looks like Margaret Court, and she's got exactly the same views as Margaret Court. They actually have a mutual respect for each other.
Yes.
So
you did say she loves Margaret Court as well, didn't you?
Loves Margaret
so she didn't
Court.
mind being compared to Margaret Court.
No.
Yeah.
It's an honour and a privilege for her to be compared to Margaret Court. So that's so funny. That makes me laugh.
Now, what advice have you got for parents that have got children a part of the LGBTI community?
Just to create a safe place for them to be open. And I mean, you don't have to join PFLAG and march in the Pride Parade. You can just create a safe environment for them to be themselves, you know. And however you want to do that, you don't. I mean, it doesn't even. You don't even need to talk about it, really. It can just be a given, like, you know. But just for them to know how you feel about it, and make it, in turn that will make them feel comfortable being in their own skin.
So you recently hosted the project, Emeralda. How was that for you? It's a new environment. You're in Sydney. You're not in your beloved Perth anymore.
That's right.
What was it like?
It was empowering. It was incredibly empowering, and like, I was terrified. I knew that I would be completely terrified. But when you are in an environment, you know, that is a bit foreign to you, you kind of rely on the kindness of strangers, you know, and you kind of look for people who are welcoming and and are quite supportive, and you can find that in everyone. Like it's really amazing. You're not on your own. You're never on your own, and I think that's probably what's most important. What I learnt about my time overseas in the last couple of weeks. You're not on your own. You're not doing it on your own. There are people that want to see you succeed.
That want to help you.
That want to help you. You know, they're not going to hang you out to dry. They're not going to throw you under a bus. They don't want you to look bad. They actually just want to help you. And that, to me, spoke volumes about humanity, because we always, some of us think that, you know, being in the media is full of backstabbing and, you know, people out to get each other and, you know, stealing each other's jobs and that sort of thing. But it's not like that at all. It's a very nurturing environment and really caring. And I think that's what I've taken away from it. Everyone behind the scenes, in the control rooms, the floor managers, the camera operators, they're all there to make you feel comfortable. And all of the other people that I was on air with as well, like they were just, I think that was probably the biggest surprise, is because you think you're there on your own, but you're not. And I would kind of like to think that's a metaphor for life as well. Like it's not just then and there, it's any endeavour that you do, there will always be people that will support and help you.
Yeah, yeah. And in the talk that you did last year, you showed some amazing news stories that proved that people really can help and make a difference. There was Fabio, who was in an accident. He was an Uber driver, and he was just driving some food to one of the customers, and he got crashed into. And he'd only been there for a week or two, and he was thinking of going back home to Brazil. And then you showed the next day that you did another story, 10 or 10 did another story on it, and people had come to help him.
Yes.
And he was just like enlightened by it all. And there's stories like that. Are they stories that wanted to make you continue being a journalist and doing stories like this?
Yes, because it wears you down if all you're doing is just the negative, the blood and the murders and the pedophiles and the horrific car crashes, and it would just, you know, there's got to be a light at the end of the tunnel. There's got to be a reason why you're doing it. And the reason why the bigger reason why we cover stories like, you know, car crashes and is so that they don't happen again. It's so that people, you know, if it's a black spot, if it's, you know, the Great Ocean Road, or what's the road up to Yanchep or whatever it's called, the Indian Ocean Drive or whatever that road is called, that was just like notorious there for a moment. We cover those things because we want people to be careful. You know, the authorities want them to be careful if they're driving because they know that's a notorious spot, you know. And so there's got to be a reason, a public interest in reporting the sorts of things that we do. You know, with pedophiles, you know, there's a safety message there. You know, with creeps going into the toy section of supermarkets and filming little kids, you know, you just can't leave your kid in the toy section anymore to have fun, you know, because you've got to be worried about people with an ulterior motive. And yeah, so, but the best sorts of stories is when people reach out to other people who are in need, and you know, when people lose everything in a fire or at Christmas time and all their presents get destroyed and that sort of thing, and then people just come and give, you know, it's just, it's a giving environment that I love, knowing that we've had a hand in. Putting people in contact with each other and connecting people. I mean, the biggest story that I can think of is Denisha Woods. You know, everybody
got involved with that one.
Yeah, it was just a heartbreaking story, and what a beautiful family as well. You know, to have risen above such an awful thing to happen, like in an instant, and just for the support that family have gotten from the community is incredible, and also that we're not going to let up on them getting what they deserve from the government, you know, in terms of an ex gratia payment or that sort of thing, or compensation. Because everyone's behind them, you know, so
everyone's backing them.
They're not alone. And I think, you know, families like the Denisha Woods family are certainly feeling the love. And as journalists, you know, there's no greater reward.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, you're involved, speaking of helping people, you're involved with a lot of charities. You're an ambassador for Breast Cancer WA, you're also a patron for the Motor Neuron Disease Society of WA as well, and you're involved in the David Wirapunda Foundation too. So I do have a video that might remind you a bit of this. I think the survey,
I'm doing
they might
the
have
Ice Bucket Challenge because of Fionnuala Franey for challenging me. Thank you very much, Fionnuala, the CEO of the Motor Neurone Disease Association of WA. And as a patron of the MNDAWA, I am doing this for a very close friend of mine, Robin Hornsey, who fought bravely against MND and lost her battle a few years ago. And I'm doing it for everybody who has fought or is fighting this very cruel disease. So this is for you, everyone in WA with MND and Robin Hornsey.
Yes, it was.
So
I didn't put that reaction on. That was,
it was actually that cold.
It was actually that cold. But yeah, MND is like, that is the charity closest to my heart because it stole a close friend from us way before her time, and just the worst. I mean, if you can imagine the worst thing to die from, it's motor neuron disease. It's absolutely horrific. It's where your messages don't sort of get through to muscles and every part of your body, and eventually you just stop breathing. After you know, some people lose their mobility, some people use the movement in their arms first, their legs first. You can't talk anymore, you can't eat anymore, and you just stop breathing, and it's absolutely horrific.
It's just awful, yeah. But you've mentioned that it's so important to be a part of these charities, and it also, again, bringing it back to your sense of identity and giving back to the community like your dad did.
Yes. If we're blessed in life, and I feel completely blessed in life, I've come from a very strong family background. I've been surrounded by love. I have that really strong identity, that strong sense of self, the strong, connection to the place that I live in. And don't we all owe it to the vulnerable in our society to give back? And by vulnerable, I mean people who have terminal illness and through no fault of their own have been dished the worst in life, or have been just, born into the wrong environment. And there are so many charities out there and so many ways that we can help. And I think we owe it to ourselves, and we owe it to the place that we've come from to be able to give back. And I think we have. We have a duty to give back. It's actually our civil duty to give back and our community duty.
Okay, Nerelda, are you ready for the review?
Ready.
What are you expecting to see? I asked you this at the beginning, but has your mind changed? Are you expecting to see anything in particular?
Well, it'd be good if it looks a little bit like me.
I think I've captured you.
A tiny bit like me, I'll be happy.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I've tried to capture your resilience because I feel like you're very resilient. You've been through so many different things in your life and challenges, but you've pulled through and you've proved that you've got this drive. So I kind of wanted to make you look joyous and resilient and kind of glowing. So hopefully that's what you'll get. But I'll get you to stand up. If you can stand up.
Yes.
Get ready and close your eyes.
Okay, I've got my eyes closed.
And keep them closed.
The anticipation's killing me.
Keep them closed. All right. You can open your eyes now.
Really?
Yes, really.
Wow! You've done an amazing job. I can't believe it, Maddie.
Are you happy?
I'm so happy. I can't multitask at all. I can't believe you were able to have a decent D&M with me and then be able to capture that.
We definitely had a good D&M though as well.
I'm really impressed.
I wanted to capture, I just wanted to make you look happy as well, because you really do, you're a positive person and you take out all the positivity out of every aspect of your life, so I wanted to make you look really happy.
I cannot believe it. My goodness.
You're welcome.
Oh my
Thanks,
God.
Nerelda.
Oh my God.